Well, first things first, we probably should define this. Now, the origins of the phrase are uncertain, but big data is generally defined as data that exceeds the processing capability of your conventional database systems, your conventional RDBMS systems. People also define big data with regards the 3 V's. That's data in a volume, variety, and velocity that is way beyond the realm of traditional systems. Gartner defines big data as data that is high volume, high velocity, and high variety information assets that demand cost-effective, innovative forms of information processing for enhanced insight and decision making. Let's take a look at some of these. So, volume, of course, refers to the quantity or the magnitude of the data. And this is a relative term, of course, because it changes with time. The amount of storage on a micro SD card no bigger than my fingernail now goes into most phones, and they can hold gigabytes of data. Now, in days gone by, data centers encompassing acres of land would have housed 1 gigabyte of data. Now, in 2018, it's commonly thought that data sets that exceed 1 terabyte and more typically 1 petabyte, they are classed as falling into the term big data. Just to give you an example, Facebook reportedly processes 1 million photographs per second, and 260 billion photos on their servers typically will take up around 20 petabytes of storage. If you're unfamiliar with these conventions, because you can get lost within these conventions, don't worry, I'm going to give you a rundown later on and we'll put them in a nice structured way. So don't worry too much about those. It should also be said at this point that most analysts believe that an estimated 5% of the stuff that is classed as big data is actually structured. Just 5%. That's according to Kay Cukier of The Economist. So only 5% of the data that exists on our planet is in that lovely, clean, tabular form that you're used to when you're working with spreadsheets, when you're entering candidate details in a CRM system or a relational database. The remaining deluge of data is the unstructured stuff. And you need to understand those two different forms. Unstructured, well, this is where the variety actually comes in. So big data that can comprise video, images, audio, raw text, fingerprint scans, iris scans, sensor data triggers, data that is in a form that lacks the inherent structure and organization to be able to be readily put into a table. There's even a class of data known as semi-structured, just to kind of start you thinking about this. Now, this is ostensibly data which is raw, but it's had a level of user involvement and user defining going on. So it can make it more readable by big data systems. Not completely structured, but can be read by big data systems, especially with the language XML. So very often on the CVs of data analysts, for example, they will have XML because XML-based data systems can read the unstructured stuff. Let's get on to velocity, because as we alluded to earlier, this is kind of the impressive one, referring back to that amount of data that we create every 60 seconds. The proliferation of incredibly powerful handheld personal devices means that data uptake channels can span from social media platforms to YouTube, Netflix, online retail platforms. So there's a huge amount of data flowing because of the sophistication of the devices that we carry around with us all day long. Just to give you an example, on the worldwide Amazon Prime Day in July 2018, Amazon was selling at a rate of 6 1,000 transactions per minute. Now, every single one of those transactions had to be recorded within Amazon's big data system. And in real time, the big data system had to analyze trends in order to forecast product demand, generate a new set of recommendations for each customer based on every transaction and their changing profile, listen in on consumer sentiment about the quality of those products, ensure seamless fulfillment of every single order, and to make sure that loyalty is retained through easy returns and excellent customer service. So there are the 3 V's: volume, velocity, and variety. There are others, by the way. In recent times, we've gone up to about 12 V's. But in recent times, thought leaders have introduced many more V's. I'll introduce to you some of these. IBM came up with veracity. Now, this was a nod to the inherent uncertainty built into big data systems, or the amount of data that was coming out. A very similar one was introduced by SAS, and they introduced this concept of variability. The idea that the data doesn't flow in proper streams, but there are huge peaks and troughs, and the stream of data comes in kind of sporadic, unreliable streams. More important really for you though is the one that Oracle introduced, and that is value. The V of value. And this really is quite an important one because, let's face it, if you're a data analyst, data scientist, business intelligence, or a big data expert, you really are concerned about how to extract the best value you can from the data that is in front of you. So let's go